Okay, it's always a good idea to record what you do to the motor so that you can reference it later on, just in case you want to rebuild it again in the future. And I've already gotten started with my motor data sheet. I have listed just about every parameter I can think of, and I even started filling it in. Okay, so let's set up to install some bearings. I'm going to get the torch out, so I'm going to want a piece of paper to protect my rubber bench from getting burnt. So now that we've got all our parts clean, let's go ahead and start reassembly. Take the head off and the cylinder off, and the crankcase apart. Okay, enough of that. Okay, I had to get the crankcase separator tool out again and put it in. As you can see, it's like a 5/8 bolt with a nut and a couple of washers for spacers, and you just put that thing in there and twist it until the case pops apart. So now I'm going to inspect those holes, make sure that they've got all the debris and dirt and other things taken out of them. Okay. Oh, that gunk out of there. All right. And you'll want to clean it out even better. Okay. And for this side, it's these pins that need to be super clean. Get as much of that old silicone out or any kind of debris or grit. Make sure they're all clean as can be, especially around these pins. Now, once you make sure that the case halves can go together and apart without getting stuck, okay. Okay, let's set up to install some bearings. Need 2 case halves. I always like to do the easy one first. Okay, so to install the bearing, basically we're going to heat up the bearing pocket and freeze the bearing and heat up the bearing pocket. Okay, we need a timer, so we're going to reset. Basically, you want to start your timer and do this for 7 minutes. Just rotate the flame around the outside of the bearing pocket, not on the inside of the bearing pocket. I am getting audio, yes. So I'm going to turn the camera off for a minute, or 5. Okay, when you get to 7 minutes, it's time to put the bearing in there. But you got to run upstairs and get it out of the freezer and unwrap it and put it in real quick. Okay, get a bearing fresh out of the freezer. Gotta unwrap it, trying not to touch it. And this is important. You want to get the open face in, so you open it this way. Then there's a special way to grab it. But you gotta set the block in a position, 2 fingers inside race, grab it like that, position it directly over the bearing pocket, and push it in, just like that. And you want to apply a little bit of pressure for the first few seconds because they can have a tendency to rise up. So you just hold it in for a second until your fingers are numb, and that's how you insert a bearing. Okay, once you get one case half done, Might as well do the other one. Set that out of the way somewhere. And this one's a bit trickier. And you most certainly want to make sure it is clean on the inside, especially that bearing pocket. So we'll get everything nice and clean. All the little pieces of debris and dust, everything should be all nice and cleaned off. And it is important to use a fingernail to make sure these machine surfaces are flat. Okay. Especially these pins. Make sure they're as clean as they can get. Getting all the little pieces of silicone off. It really is very important to have this thing as clean as you can get it. Because those little fine particles left behind have a tendency to be bad news. Okay. I'll get that baby oriented into a good position. Okay. Make sure you have a stopwatch. Get it set. Turn on your flame. Start the stopwatch and do this for 7 minutes. You want to try and heat that outside bearing pocket, and only the outside bearing pocket. Do not heat the inside of the bearing pocket. And after a minute or so, there will be a buildup of any kind of moisture that was left over, and you'll certainly want to wipe that out. Especially the bearing pocket. Okay, 7 minutes. Just heating the outside of the bearing pocket, not the inside of the bearing pocket. Okay, I should mention that I don't have any shims in these, bearing shims in this motor. But if you did, you don't want to heat those. You'll want to put those in with the rest of the bearing. And once you get up to 7 minutes, it's time to insert the bearing. And I got to run upstairs and get it. Okay, get your bearing. Place the crankcase half in a position where you can insert it. Okay. Nice stable platform. Open it up. It's been freezing for a week, so it should be cold. So what you don't want to do is touch the actual outer race of the bearing. Oop. This one is upside down. I'll grab it like this, 2 fingers, make sure the open face is inside. Position it with your other 2 fingers, and it should. If it doesn't go all the way in, you can tap it with a hammer. Okay. Sometimes they are a bit tricky. Okay, now is a good time to insert the seals. That one should cool a tad more, but this one is ready to have a seal put in it. And it's not really that hard. Make sure it's not too warm. Just open your seal. These are these seals. Okay. So once again, with a seal, you want to avoid touching the outside. And pop that baby on there. And this one you actually can tap in with a hammer. So the trick to these is you don't put them in too far. And you want them as even as possible. And just tap it in. And look from the inside. There, and that is in there. If you get it in too far, you'll have some seal rub, and you do not want that. That will slow the motor down. Okay, not too hot to the touch. Again, you don't want to touch the outside if you don't have to. So I grab it with 2 fingers on the inner race, position it, and tap it in with a hammer. And you want to tap it evenly and trying to get it to go in as evenly as possible. And that is almost there. Okay. Looks like it's in a tad farther on this side. Okay, but not too far. Okay, so let's see if this one, yeah, that one's good. Okay. And that is how you put bearings and seals in. And now it's ready for reassembly.